delighted to introduce Chris Hodge, who is the FedEx Express e-commerce marketing manager. Okay? And he's going to walk us through some very insightful insights into FedEx. Over to you, Chris.
Out there, we're all blue. Blue is my second favorite color after purple, so I think we're off to a good start. John and I look like we're about ready to log into Xbox Live here with the headsets on. We're going to have a really good show for you guys. Really appreciate you coming to the presentation, and I hope you take away a lot. Going to talk a lot about cross-border. If you have any questions, I guess you can just shout them out, actually, to make life easier on you. I'll be happy to answer anything now or later. We've also got a few members of our commercial team hidden within the crowd. Pascal's raising his hand over there. So if you want to, talk about anything after the show, come see me, come see the team. We've got a great booth out there with a lot of information. And you can also, of course, visit FedEx.com if you like what you hear. Let's see if I can get this thing to work. So, we're going to have 4 chapters today to the presentation. We really want to talk about how, working with FedEx can help you unlock cross-border revenue growth. So I think with a lot of the kind of macro pressure that we're all facing these days, we're all looking for different pockets of growth that you can exploit. And I can tell you that even if you're doing a really strong domestic business, so shipping within the Netherlands or within Belgium, where I'm from, there's huge opportunity in the cross-border space. And just to kind of outline that with a couple of numbers that we track year over year at FedEx, and the spoiler alert is that they usually continue to go up, and they continue to stay, quite stable in terms of the total growth. So, cross-border e-commerce in terms of total sales is on pace to reach $8 trillion by 2032. That's with a T, $8 trillion. And, more impressive, I think, if we compare same state sales, so domestic sales or the e-commerce average to cross-border. Cross-border is going to get there by growing at a rate of 2 to 1 over that average over the next 10 years. So cross-border is really booming. And to kind of put a finer point on that, by 2028, so not that far away at this point, 1 out of every $3 spent online will be a cross-border dollar. 16% today. I think if you look at some of the more mature markets in this space, like the United States, they're already, inching toward that 1 out of 3 mark. But a lot of room to grow here. And the good news is, if you're a merchant selling in Europe today, you're ready to go. You're ready to grow. And this is really a market that's poised to take off because, already you have a strong and mature domestic buying presence. So, 8 out of 10 buyers are buying within their own backyard. The European Union breaks down a lot of borders in terms of trade. So, essentially, I live in Belgium. If I want to buy one of my favorite products, let's say olive oil, I can get it from a store down the street, or I can get it from Italy or Spain. And for me, it's all the same. I've really opened up the market, to be my breadbasket. So I can look abroad. And if I'm even more adventurous, and this is, a big one if you're a seller, the rest of the world is still a huge opportunity. The United States is one of the biggest buyers of cross-border e-commerce goods. It's the 10th largest market, or 10th fastest growing market in the world, even though it's one of the largest buyer markets around. So if you're sitting out there as a web shop and you're wondering where to start, I'll just call out a couple of buckets of opportunity within Europe. And I call these the growers and the showers. So you've got your growers, which are your large established e-commerce markets on the left on the slide. They're very big. They have a relatively low cross-border spend, so it's really up to us to go out there and convince them of the value of looking abroad or selling into those markets. And then you've got the showers, and these are probably the countries that you already see in your SimilarWeb or your Alexa data when you're selling online, because these guys, cross-border buying is an ingrained behavior for them. So they're already doing it. It's a relatively lower spend, but they're already 60% plus reliant on buying cross-border online. So, those guys are going to continue to spend a lot. The other guys are going to start to grow their cross-border spend. You really can't go wrong, but when we talk about things like localization, it might make sense that you take a look at, the data and the traffic that you're getting today to see where it makes sense to start. So, a lot of people ask, especially in the larger markets, I do good domestic business. My buyers like to buy from domestic, web shops. What would drive them to go online and search out somebody from Belgium or from the United States or from the Netherlands? And I think the point of this slide, is, of course, affordability is a big driver. People want to look for the best price for a good that they've decided to buy. And a lot of times they don't care whether that comes from, France or Germany or the UK. They're just looking for the lowest total cost to purchase that good. I do think for European web shops and merchants, especially the ones that we talk to, the second and third buckets are really important because these are the big profit drivers. The other ones will drive some revenue. These are really the profit drivers. It's when you focus on a variety of products. So, people who are shopping cross-border are usually doing it because they're looking for a specific good that they can't find in their own backyard. And frequently those same customers, they're willing to pay more for the good. So they're willing to pay you a premium to be able to get it to them. And they're also willing to subsidize things like shipping or duty and tax, obviously within reason. I mean, free shipping is still a big driver in the market, but you can really find profitability bucket here. And then the third one, especially for European sellers, again, item of better quality. And it's amazing when you go around the world and you talk to different buyer groups and you ask them the number one reason they're going to buy from Europe. 9 times out of 10, it starts with the quality of European goods is so much further advanced than what I can find in my home market that, again, I'm willing to pay more to get that. And my colleague Chris asked me, what's your latest cross-border purchase? And I'll tell you my latest cross-border purchase, and I'll tell you what I think is my most recent dumbest cross-border purchase. We live in Belgium, but obviously they don't have olive oil in Belgium. So we recently got a pallet of olive oil delivered via cross-border commerce from Italy to our apartment in Belgium. And that's just kind of one of the examples where people are really, you think it's crazy, but this merchant that we work with, it's not like we're the only people ordering from that guy. He's shipping pallets and boxes and, liters of olive oil from Italy to Belgium and to every other country, in the European Union. And these little pockets of things that you can't find at home or that are just higher quality if you go somewhere else, they're really driving the cross-border market, especially when it comes to profitability. And, the final 2 buckets are around the lower shipping costs, of course, which obviously at FedEx, we're trying to do our part to help you guys. And then, delivery and returns being very quick, which is no surprise because if I look at the drivers to not buy, and these are the kind of things that we want to help you guys overcome, expensive shipping and long deliveries are 1 and 2. So if we can work together to figure out, a cheaper, more value-added shipping cost point and a quicker delivery time to get that product into market, you've already knocked out the top 2. And then I'm going to give you on the subsequent slides a couple of tips on how you can take on things like authenticity, returns policies, and transparency. But kind of to finish out this section, what I really want you to take away is that if you want to jump into cross-border, the opportunity is huge. Got to do a bit of homework. Look at the traffic, see where that's coming from, see which countries are your top hits. I think you're going to be surprised, and then do a bit of homework to kind of know the local buying customs within that market around things like speed, flexible delivery options, transparency on cost, etc. And that kind of leads me to the next one. And John, yeah.
Should we just pause
Yeah.
and just ask the audience, first off, can I ask you a question? Can you raise your hand if you're a retailer? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, I think. those 6 of you, do cross border currently, or is it something you're thinking of doing? Yeah, you all do it currently. Okay, interesting. Okay, right. Any questions from anybody? I mean, there's anybody with a blue headset on. Any questions for Chris at this point in terms of the data that he shared so far about reasons? First of all, the size of the opportunity, and it's clearly huge. Yeah. What was it? 8 trillion.
8 trillion.
Wow.
By 2030.
By 32.
That's huge.
Wow. And equally, in terms of the reasons why people buy. Okay. Is now a good time to ask about duties and charges?
Yeah, it's
Good.
a great question.
Good, because I bought these jeans. I think you'll agree they're value for money. Yes. Anyway, I've got 3 pairs, right? And it's a US company,
Yeah.
right? Very expensive brand, right? Only the best. But when I bought 1 pair, it was below the threshold, and I paid no duties and tax. But I liked them so much, so I bought 2 pairs the next time I shopped. I got hammered for a £38
Yeah.
delivery
tax,
duty
yeah.
unpaid. So, and had I known that, it would have been cheaper for me to buy 2 separate items.
Yeah.
But the website, it's not FedEx's fault. The website, the retailer's website, didn't give me that information to make that decision.
And that's, I think, the biggest point in cross-border. I mean, we don't talk about pushing customers to delivery duty paid or delivery to duty unpaid. I mean, that's your choice. But it all plays into the kind of experience that you want to offer to your buyers. Because, if you're going for a one-time hit and you buy your jeans, yeah, and let's say you do get the duty and tax bill, you're probably never going to buy from that same merchant again. Or you're going to learn and you're going to do the one jeans at a time. I think the much better way to do it, and a lot of great technology partners out in the Midway can help you set this up, as well as FedEx, at least give those buyers a heads up that the duty and tax bill is either coming, or allow them to even pay it in the cart. That way there are no surprises. Because, at that point, even if you might lose the conversion on that one sale or change that one sale into 2, you're going to maximize the customer lifetime value for that buyer. So you're going to keep buying those beautiful American jeans, every time, because you know what's coming. Yeah. So I think it's all, transparency is really key in duty tax.
Yeah, 100%. Any questions before Chris moves on to the next section? Good. Over to you, Chris.
No, great call out too. Because I think it plays into the fact that when we talk to those jeans sellers, and all the rest of our customer base within Europe, this is another kind of stat that we track. More than 1 in 2 do tell us that they find cross-border business to be difficult. I mean, they're right away confronted with things like duty and tax and harmonized codes and commercial invoices that they just never needed to think about when they were only selling in their local market. The good news is I think there are a couple of things that you can do to make your lives easier. And I'll walk through those on a couple slides, and then we can take a few more questions. The first is to focus on your site and the experience that you offer, just like plugging in duty and tax. I mean, the real beauty for me in cross-border commerce is that, nearly 60% of cross-border buyers, so these are the cross-border buyers specifically, they want to buy from a brand-specific website. I come to Amsterdam for deliver. I go, in the downtown area. I see all of these different brands that don't exist in Belgium. I go back on the train tomorrow night. What I want to do is go to log on to those brands' websites, shop through the catalog, and have those delivered to me. Now, of course, if I can't do that, I go to a marketplace or I go to a local reseller. But, they really have an affinity for a certain product or a certain brand. Versus the domestic space where a lot of times you're just running to the cheapest widget that you can find in a marketplace environment. So you've really got an opportunity to maximize profit through creating the right website. And the big key in terms of doing that is authenticity. They want to be able to shop on your Dutch website, but somewhat feel that the package is going to make it, sometimes across an ocean, sometimes across a border, that they can pay a bit in their payment terms that they're used to. The duty and tax are clear, and that the product catalog makes some kind of sense. And there are really 2 things you can do to make it more appealing and become very authentic very quickly. The first one is translations. And here I get to say everybody's favorite word, which is AI. It used to be that if you wanted to ship to 5 markets, you had to hire 5 guys who spoke those languages and have all of your different products, categorized and translated. And it took a long time and it was very costly. Today, with a lot of the great technology providers out there in the market, you can do that overnight. And I'd urge you to focus on specific countries you want to sell into and specific pages like product information, shipping, and payment. The second place is one we've put a lot of focus on at FedEx over the past couple of years as we've pushed into cross-border through the crisis, and that's helping merchants understand localization. And this is realizing that it's always a good time to sell swimming suits, but it's not always a good time to sell swimming suits in every market around the world. So you need to kind of know what's going on in the countries in which you sell. So, tailoring product selection, again, swimming suits, knowing that Germans love brown shoes. I've never understood why. But, making sure that you're putting the products that are most wanted in those markets up front in those areas of the website. Obviously, tailoring payment methods. We don't all use American Express. We don't all use Bank Contact. We don't all use Klarna. You want to be able to make sure that you're exposing the right payment methods to the right buyer base so that it matches. So that when you want to sell to Americans, you do have American Express. When you want to sell to Belgians, you have Bank Contact. And when you want to sell to the Chinese, you have something completely different. But you enable them to be able to buy in a local way, even though the product's coming from a half world away. And then the final thing is delivery options. And this is one where we do come into play. But exposing things like retail pickups and drop-offs in the shopping cart, duty tax, being able to know kind of what works in a given market and translate that to the buyer experience is really important. And here again, we work with fabulous tech companies. I mean, we know at FedEx we can't do it all. So one of the things we've really, changed in our e-commerce approach is to work with some of the best tech providers out there in the market, like eShop World or like Zonos, to be able to offer these things to you with FedEx discounts and with the great global reach and network that we have. If I can go on.
And just pause there. So, website, you've just framed there what the perfect website could do to help drive cross-border traffic. Any questions on any of that before we move on to the next section on delivery? No, I don't think so.
Who feels like they have the perfect one figured out? It's not the guy with the yellow bag. No, I'm just joking.
Right. Well, can I ask you a question? Those of you who had your hand, you've got a question. Marvellous. Could you stand up so that the guy with the camera can take a picture of it? It doesn't matter. Stand up, say who you are and which business you're from.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Is it hear me?
Yes, yeah, it's good.
Yes, I represent Ukrainian company Milanova and Mila. We are dealing with B2C business. We have our website where we shipping dresses to United States directly from Ukraine to all over the world. And the biggest problem is that customers pay all duties and taxes at checkout, but when they are returned dresses, they would like to get a refund. Yes, and it's like a very difficult process to get a refund from custom authorities and refund it to end customers because taxes are quite high. It's approximately 30% of value of shipment. It's like a big deal for customers to compensate their charges.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
It's a really good question. And I think it leads into a couple of things we'll cover. But I think, first of all, think of your returns policy, and whether it makes sense to always even offer a return or whether you want to guarantee that you'll get some of those duty and taxes back on behalf of the customer. There's another place where technology can really do a lot because a lot of times what I see is, customers don't use the same shipper for the outbound and the return. And that does cause, it's fine, that's your decision, but that does cause a bit of data inconsistency when you want to go for things like duty relief or duty drawback or all of the different kind of things that you're talking about in terms of getting the money back. So it does make it a bit easier if you use, for example, we have a FedEx Global Returns program which ties the outbound to the return and makes the filing a bit easier. But beyond that, I think there are technology providers out there. So for example, we work with a company called Zigzag. They do a lot of returns technology enablement, so they can help stitch things together to make sure that it's easier to do the filing and provide that duty and tax back. But I think the first thing I'd do is look at your policy and see how you might be able to work around some of the things on that.
Cool. Thanks for the question.
And cool business too.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Okay, should we move on to delivery?
Yeah, I think returns goes along with that. And I think, you know, the only thing here, and it's again one of those ones we track, is drivers of loyalty. Because if it's not apparent, we're big believers that lifetime value and loyalty are better than a one-time conversion in cross-border commerce. So we really focus on loyalty. And what always stands out to me here is the importance of delivery. You know, the first driver of loyalty, of course, is, you know, do your good-looking jeans look good? Are they the right size? Do they feel good? That's always going to be the number one thing. You know, did the product I received meet my expectations? I'm always surprised, and I work in the business. Number two is delivery experience. But if you think about it, that's your one physical touch point with most of the brands that you buy. So it makes complete sense that actually it's you know, primordial that experience is tip-top, that it's delivered on time, that you've got track and trace, that there are no dirty surprises at the door in terms of duty and tax. So no surprise here that that's a top driver of loyalty, even beyond purchase costs and, you know, customer service. It's all about that delivery moment. And there are a couple of things that I think you can do, and it's almost no matter where you're shipping in the world, to help make that delivery moment the best experience possible. And it's all about making, you know, deliveries around your buyer's terms. So make them flexible, make them convenient, you know, and really give the visibility to all those options. I mean, especially in Europe, locker deliveries, retail point deliveries are really growing. More than 3/4 of online shoppers are looking for those kind of options. And I think that's only going to increase as we all go back to work and we've got busy lives. You know, 68% of your buyers, they want choices for delivery, because sometimes they need their fancy shoes because they've got delivered tomorrow and they've got to give a presentation, so they need them overnight. Sometimes they're willing to wait a day or two. Generally, they're not willing to wait more than 3 days, which I think is also very interesting. It's kind of, you've got the two bounds, you know, but they're willing to wait a day, 2, maybe 3 to get the product, especially if they can then tap into free shipping, or you can expose free shipping. And then, you know, I think that this is going along with the out-of-home thing. You know, 50% of the merchants we talk to, they do say that they have an increase in conversion when they're exposing some things like out-of-home delivery within the shopping cart. So I think that really, you know, is a proof point to show how important that is and how much, you know, convenience and flexibility is also a driver for conversion. And then I'll just touch, you know, one of the points that may not be apparent, but more than anything, I think it's established in the domestic market. More and more people, when they buy cross-border, are starting to think sustainable. They do consider sustainability. In a FedEx world, a lot of times that starts with packaging. You know, we want to make sure we're improving and reducing packaging waste. But it's not only about the simple fact of not having a lot of cardboard box out there. It's also a big convenience thing, because when you do have returns, the first thing that you're asking is, you know, how do I get this thing in a box and how do I put a label on it? If you do reusable packaging, then that's ready-made. You know, and that's one of the big things we've had success with in FedEx, is we do have a reusable envelope that allows you to do an outbound and then get a return back in that same envelope. 30% are starting to be willing to wait a bit longer for deliveries. More important than that, you know, more and more people are realizing that eliminating deliveries to doors and choosing some of those lockers and pickup points, it's actually a big driver of sustainability. And you know, we have our FedEx 2040 vision, and I've seen it with a lot of other companies as well, but there are things you can do today to make your business more sustainable, to enable your buyers to be more sustainable. So you want to make sure that you're doing all of those things. And then, of course, you know, fast is good, but you do see some concern about the level of carbon impact that can go along with that. So I think the point here is you don't need fancy robots and electric cars to be more sustainable. There are a lot of things we can do today in working together to make things more recyclable and more reusable.
Can I just jump in here? Any questions on the sustainability issue here?
Hot topic.
I've got a question for you guys, particularly the retailers in the room. So we've all received a package that we bought online, and the parcel is perhaps the size of this microphone, yeah, in a huge box with lots of air. Now, clearly, that's a big issue in terms of volumetrics and so on, and whether it's an airline or whether it's a swap body trailer driving cross border. Do you help retail clients with their packaging challenges to try and improve the sustainability?
Absolutely. And look, nobody wants to be flying air or paying for air. That's good for no one. But absolutely, we've got things like the FedEx Packaging Lab will actually help make sure it's not only the right size, but it's also fit for purpose, so that your I was going to say VCR, but I think that's dated, so that your Xbox doesn't show up with a ripped box, that it's ready to go. So we can help you out in a myriad of ways. We also have partners we work with in that area who can help, do boutique boxing, so that they make sure that when you ship something this size, you're not putting it in a box this size. It can make a box on demand that is the perfect fit and safe to ship. So.
Yeah. And it's a question I never thought about. So FedEx, the brand obviously dates back to Fred Smith and the famous business paper he did and so on. And traditionally, a lot of people would have seen FedEx as being an intercontinental carrier, everything from Memphis, amazing hub and so on, hubs all over Europe and so on. But in terms of you optimizing your European cross-border footprint, which is probably the thing that's most interesting to the audience here, when do you decide to fly and when do you decide to put it on the road?
Yeah, and that's kind of going back to the choice. I mean, well, the first thing is I think we still fight the international, kind of brand, which is, we do have an unmatched connectivity to the United States. We have the best buyer value prop to take advantage of that market. We purchased a company called TNT Express in Europe. Probably heard of it. A few years back. We've now completed the physical integration for that. So now, we make the decision based on transit time, which is obviously still very important that we meet whatever commit we make to the customer, but also on cost and things like sustainability. I mean, if we can go from Belgium to the Netherlands without flying via Paris, that's clearly more sustainable, more efficient, faster, and a better experience for everyone involved. So we put that on a truck.
Okay.
And then if you're going a bit further, we want to make sure that we're not going beyond that kind of 3-day transit time commit. So we may fly that package.
Okay. Yep. Cool. Okay. Any questions from the audience before we move on? No, you're a very quiet audience. Okay.
Sure. I think we covered a lot around returns, so I won't spend too much time here other than say again, importance is that you're clear in what you want to offer, and more than anything in cross-border, you do not have to give free returns. I know that's really always a free return. You don't have to offer free returns. I mean, people who buy cross-border, they generally accept that they might have to subsidize some of the cost to get the pack back. Just like the duty and tax example, the most important thing is that the policy is clear, because more than 25%, they'll abandon the cart just because the policy doesn't make sense to them. They don't even have to agree with it. They just can't understand it. So you really need to go for clarity there. And we also talked a bit about customs, and that's all about paperwork and making sure that all your paperwork is in order. Here, it's not as hard as it looks. I do promise you, if you do a couple of brilliant basics, you're going to eliminate most of your customs challenges. But almost a third of businesses do say that they do see delays because of incorrect documentation. And a fifth see delays due to valuations. So valuations is a very hot topic right now. But you want to make sure that both are clear and honest and on every pack. It all comes through the commercial invoice. This is not as hard as it looks again. I think if you do 5 things, your commercial invoices are going to more often than not get across borders without any kind of incident. Make sure you include one. So the number one reason we get for customs delays at FedEx is people do not give us a commercial invoice. So make sure you include one in the pack and that it's written in English, because no matter where you go in the world, most of your customs authorities are familiar there. Make sure you provide an accurate goods description for everything you sell, including an accurate value. If you do try to undervalue, that also causes delays. And again, it's not so much about the delay in and of itself, it's that really impacts your customer lifetime value. Harmonized codes are becoming more and more required. Again, there are great third-party solutions that can help you do that very easily using big data. And then finally, make sure you give us recipient details. This is another one where It seems so easy, but we get a lot of commercial invoices where, there might be an issue that we can take care of within hours. But if we have to spend days hunting down the recipient or the importer of record, it obviously delays things. And similar to your payment terms question on duty and tax, you want to make sure it's very clear who's going to pay the duty and tax. But if you do those 5 things, I guarantee your cross-border shipping is going to be very much similar to what you do in the domestic market in terms of success.
Can I just stop and just drill down a little bit on some of this thing? So the point 5 there, clear recipient details and payment terms. And no, sorry, number 3, that was the point I was thinking. Good description. So I know, certain products are complicated, right?
Yeah.
They could have, crocodile skin, leather tops,
Boots, yeah.
which are banned in certain countries and so on. So in order to make it easier, do FedEx stay on top of all of that and these guys buy a plug-in from you? Or are they expected to do it?
We actually offer the plug-in. So if you ship via FedEx Ship Manager, for example, and you give us a crocodile boot, we can tell you through some advanced screening that, yes, that may be restricted in this country or it might require additional FDA documentation in country X. So we actually can tell you all of that kind of thing. The core is that you do tell us it's, crocodile boots from the Netherlands, versus just saying shoes, because shoes is not often clear enough for the customs authorities to get it through.
Right.
But absolutely, you give us a goods description, we can help out with the rest.
Okay. Any questions from the floor? All very clear? Okay, move on.
Sure, and I'll make this part short because this is the sales pitch. I'm not from sales; I'm from marketing, so I'll try to be efficient with it. But it's really all about how we can help you. If you are a small business out there in Europe, I just want to take 1 second to tell you about our FedEx Ship Manager platform because it's exactly the question you just asked. When you get up and running and you want to ship crocodile boots, you're going to input that in FedEx Ship Manager and it'll tell you you need an FDA form or a commercial invoice. It kind of gives you those prompts so that everything's easy for you and plugs into most of the major marketplaces in Europe. We've got and that QR code is actually real. We've got a show on this tomorrow, a short webinar just on FedEx Ship Manager and the technology connections that we offer at FedEx. So if you want more, there's a whole hour that you can spend with the team and find out about how to create commercial invoices and shipments and things like that.
So just on that, you mentioned earlier, you talked about returns. I think it came up. It was the question from the lady from Ukraine. And you mentioned you partner with Zigzag on that.
Correct.
So FedEx, you've pulled together almost like, let's say, an A-team, if you like.
Different tech
of
plugins.
best in class. So it's not all your own stuff necessarily. You've got
Not
strategic
necessarily
partnerships.
correct. Exactly.
And is it all sort of rooted into that shipping platform?
It really depends. So, for example, something like Zigzag is a post-ship application that we can help plug you in.
Okay.
We also offer a kind of a native return solution within FedEx Ship Manager,
Right.
which would be a bit like it probably wouldn't cover the use case of things like duty drawback, duty relief, but your simple AB, BA return, you can definitely include a label in a box. You can do a QR code. You can do a emailed PDF. You can do all of those things. And the beauty, and that's kind of the point of this slide, and we can also grow with you. So you start out on Ship Manager as a small customer. You get a bit bigger, or maybe you want to do multi-carrier, or maybe you want to do import and export, or whatever combination you want. We then move you up, and we have 300 different trusted solutions that we work with. So your SynClouds, your InShifts, your big, what we call compatible solution providers that have all the FedEx technology and value prop built in. You can plug into those to expand your business. For our really large customers, they integrate directly via APIs. So we can continue to grow from, we have customers that ship a pack a day. We ship customers that ship 10,000 packs a day and to the moon. We can continue to help you. And then, point 4, like I said, we do have a lot of strategic collaborations in the market. So we can even bring in other players, which can help you grow, obviously, and you still benefit from the FedEx network and price point. So choice that balances speed and cost, and I'll go very quickly here. I mean, the one we're so proud of is that one on the left. We launched our International Connect Plus product. I think it's going to celebrate its 4th birthday coming up in August. It's really taken off. We cover 200 markets with that product. It's dedicated e-commerce. You've got all of the kind of consignee apps, the clearance, door-to-door built into it. A fantastic offer. It's built to hit that 2 to 3 day window for delivery time commits. Obviously, for your far-flung areas, it goes a bit longer. For your nearer countries, it goes a bit shorter. It's on the road when it makes sense from a cost point. It's in the air when we need to move it in the air. It's really got everything you need to serve as a one-stop shop for e-commerce. If you want to go faster and you've got those shoes that need to be there tomorrow, we have international priority. And if you want to go even slower and save a bit of cost, we have our FedEx International Connect product, which leverages third parties to do similar things. But again, the idea here is that whatever solution you need, we can work with you to make sure you have that so that your buyers' needs are met.
Chris, can I just go back to that slide?
Yeah, absolutely.
You just tell me the difference between the N2. I get the middle one, that's the premium product, but
Correct.
Connect and Connect Plus, what's the fundamental difference?
Yeah, no worries. That's actually a great question. So Connect Plus generally stays within the FedEx network. We do use some delivery partners where absolutely needed for cost point or for experience, but I'd say 99% of the time it stays within the FedEx Express network, and we focus more on the road because of the sustainability angle, also for the lower cost point for your customers to get in. And then the FIC product, so FedEx International Connect, that's more or less the exact opposite. That's going to be 99 to 100% outsourced. So you might have a postal pickup into a relabel organization that we run, and then we re-export using commercial line haul. And then we do some of our own deliveries, or a lot of times we'll use local post offices to make those deliveries.
Okay, so that's your real value for money product.
Exactly. And that's a lot lower weight, lower value. Whereas FedEx International Connect Plus, we can take anything from expensive Italian bags to much more cost-efficient things.
Okay, cool.
That's a great question. And in out of home, again, I think similar. Our goal is to just give you options. We're obviously building out our retail network. We've got 40,000 pickup points within Europe. We work with third parties for all of those, so a lot of different networks to cover the geographies. We allow your customers to customize their delivery times and place. That's through our FedEx Delivery Manager application. That's available in 92 countries around the world, so you're going to get the same experience more or less no matter where you ship. You can redirect parcels to another address. You can have them to your neighbor. You can sign for them so that we leave them in a safe place. And then, as we've talked about a lot here, we also have returns options throughout of home. So you can drop that parcel off in many cases at the same retail point where you picked it up. So it's full convenience for you and your buyer. I'm glad to open it up to questions. I mean, in summary, we covered a lot of ground. There are 5 key points to really become an artist in cross-border commerce. Glad to take questions now. And if you want to contact us or any of our experts, we're out in the Midway. And we open up, John.
Yeah. Right, so open up to questions now. If you go back one slide, it might help trigger some thoughts.
There you go.
So these are the 5 things you got to do well if you want to
Play in
nail
cross-border.
cross-border shipping, essentially, or cross-border e-commerce, should I say. Any questions from the audience? Some of you retailers at the front, come on, you've got to have a question. Go on. If you just stand up so he can get a great photograph of you.
There.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, and
Should I,
say who you
on?
are. That's perfect. Who you are and your company.
So, thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
My name is Arda. I'm representing a brand. We have a fashion brand, and we do 50% of our sales cross-border, pretty much. And we deliver from 4 different warehouses, one in Germany, Netherlands, Turkey, and Dubai. And what we now see with the carriers is that there are some alternatives that work as a broker, in my understanding. What they do is that they sort of book an empty cargo space inside a passenger airplane or a cargo airplane. They can deliver a bit better prices, and most of the retailers now are more afraid of rising costs than longer delivery terms, so they become a bit more appealing. So how do you see that trend moving in the retail space? Like, how do you see those carriers or brokers competing with the carriers? Because these are the sort of options that we're always considering, but we then always turn out to come back to FedEx or DHL or UPS for the better service. But for many retailers, this is still an appealing option.
It's all about and I don't know if he needs to put his headset on to hear the answer. So, but it's all about balancing speed and cost. And actually, we're getting more and more into that business with the product on the far right. I mean, we also book space on cargo carriers. You have longer transit times, which, as you remember, is one of the keys to not buy. So that's obviously a choice that you need to make in terms of how much conversion you want to drive in cross-border. With our International Connect Plus product, I think on price, we actually compete with a lot of those solutions. We're usually slightly more expensive, and I'd say 5-10%. We're usually at least a day or two faster than those options. And what we find is that, especially when you look at the intercontinental moves, once you get past 3 days, your conversion goes off a cliff. So we try to never be slower than 3-4 days. It doesn't happen because of geographies, but I mean, I think that's the risk, is when you go more and more into those book space agreements and resell and 3PLs, you've got a lot of pieces coming together. Usually all of those pieces add time. Sometimes they take away cost, which is well worth it, and that's why we've developed the product on the right. But I mean, they generally are going to the US in 4, 5, 6 days, usually not guaranteed, mostly tracked, but sometimes not. So it's really, I never say that there's a bad option. You just need to think about what experience you want to give.
Cool. Good question. Thank you. One more question. Anybody? No, I think so. I think we're the last one. Listen, Chris, I want to thank you very much.
No, thank you.
That was a fabulously interesting presentation. And what strikes me is FedEx have really moved on in the last 5 years or so with the TNT acquisition, with your 3 clear products, whereas not so long ago you only had one really.
Exactly.
It was Express or Express.
Exactly.
So now you've got 3. So I think you've got all the bases ticked. Your shipping management system sounds brilliant.
It is easy to use.
So if you want to get started, it's a great startup.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. And I know you know the journey, so we've learned a lot, and looking forward to talking to you guys in the Midway.
Thank you. If you want any questions, you've got a question. We have a question.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So if you just say who you are and
Yes. So my name is Shashank. I'm coming from a company Caplink. We use FedEx most of the time already.
Thanks.
Very good service, by the way. And I have this is regarding the commercial invoice.
Yeah.
Even till date, my warehouse prints 4 copies of commercial invoice, and I wanted to experiment I did one experiment one time by basically sending a shipment from Netherlands to the US without actually printing an invoice.
Yeah.
And it did go through.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like we shipped once to Malaysia, and we didn't print it, but then it got stuck in customs. So what would you recommend? Do you still recommend to print the commercial invoices 4 to 5 copies, or
no,
it's just enough to upload?
No, and actually, if you look at all of our FedEx offers, we use a product called electronic trade documents. So it can be set up in Ship Manager or in any of the options that we have, where all of the data is then sent electronically ahead of the shipment. So you can print a commercial invoice if you want to put one in the pouch as a backup, but in most cases, that actually allows us to start to pre-clear the shipment from the time it leaves Europe. So by the time it's then arrived in the US or in another market, we've done most of the pre-clearance work, and it saves us time on the ground there. So now I would clearly recommend you use data. It's by far the better way to do it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, right. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It's quite warm in here, but thank you for your interest, and thank you, Chris, once again for a great presentation.
Thanks so much, John.